This business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
I support buybacks, and it's something I'm so passionate about and so looking forward to being president to address. We've got to deal with this.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
Stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
There has been a lot of analysis and reaction to the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris last night. But one of the biggest stories coming out of this debate is how biased these moderators are and how they failed to fact check Kamala Harris. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the lies that she was spewing and that the moderators failed to fact check her. Let's start here.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. It's got to be smart. We got to do it the right way.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons?
I do believe that we need to do buyback.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
Look, right. So here's the thing. Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools.
Okay, so that was a few of the fact checks that came out after the debate. Now, we all know that she was lying. I think a lot of people on the fence know that she was lying because she just happens to have that type of energy or personality where everything that comes out of her mouth, it just doesn't sound true or authentic. You're not going to hear that from the corporate media, by the way. You will not hear anyone say that. You probably won't even hear it really on Fox News either. And so this brings me to the first point of the video. The problem with them not fact checking is they come off too biased, and then what happens? The debate and the substance of the debate backfires. And that is what's happened to Democrats over the last 4 years. They've been so obsessed with demonizing Trump that they've lost all credibility.
On that point, Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
You know, the one thing that always stands out to me when it comes to Trump is he's not your normal politician. he's not just going to stand up there and tell you necessarily what you want to hear. He's going to tell it how it is. And the problem is, though, that the corporate media hates him so much that they literally delete 95% of what he says and takes that 5% of what he says and then change the context around it. And we know it. He knows it. The corporate media knows it. Everybody knows it up to this point. And I was telling my wife this last night. If you go back to 2020, the media were able to get away with doing things like that. But in today's world, 2024, people are looking past that. They could see through the bias and the manipulation from the media, which is why these media companies, they've been dying slowly because they're losing credibility on how much to keep going after Trump instead of talking about the issues that matter to Americans. Now, obviously, this is my opinion and what I saw in the debate, but why don't we listen to someone who moderated a debate with Trump and was also a person who pressed Trump? And I think her opinion on this matter is valid as well. And that is Megyn Kelly. Here's what she had to say.
And the worst piece of all of this is the obvious tactic by ABC News, which was as follows. Mr. Trump, you said something incredibly controversial and terrible. Let me remind you of what it was. Do you have any regrets or thoughts on how terrible you were? Trump answers. Vice President Harris, how bad is Trump? And then she'd answer. It happened over and over again. That was the format. Mr. Trump, you're a piece of shit. Kamala Harris, isn't he a shit? Thank you. It was incredible. And then anything Trump said, fact check, fact check, fact check. And their fact checks were full of shit. I'm swearing even more than normal right now because I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm angry at them, at ABC, at my industry that I want nothing to do with. And I've never been happier to be outside and be able to say how I truly feel. And yes, even with some colorful words, because that's what the situation calls for. They're trying to steal this election.
I think she summed it up very nicely. That's exactly the way that the rhetoric and the structure was during the debate. So there was zero fact checking when it came to what Kamala Harris said. You know, the interesting thing about this debate is we know you guys hate Trump, but can you not make it so obvious, right? That's the problem here. And this is why my point that a lot of voters out there, just regular people, are seeing through this mockery like this lady.
So that debate was a bunch of BS. I mean, was this a debate between Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, or a debate between Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris versus the moderators? Because the moderators were literally debating Trump and even fact-checking him. They were like, Trump, it says right here, like, that's not correct. We got a piece of paper from a manager that says, like, that's not correct. But they didn't even care to fact-check Kamala Harris on the propaganda Project 2025. Yeah, it was very biased. It was so biased. And this is exactly why he has my vote. This is exactly why I'm voting for him. And y'all also noticed how Kamala Harris left her accent outside. Just so fake, disingenuous, phony, very condescending.
Yeah, so from the corporate media's perspective, you're not going to hear these sentiments that we just went through. She had fake energy. The bias was bleeding through the TV screens. There was zero fact checking for Kamala Harris. The moderators were helping her. In fact, some cases they were debating him. And so you're not going to hear that, but that is what a lot of people saw. A lot of independents saw that. You could say, well, Trump didn't do a good enough job of fact checking her or attacking her or pushing back on her. Yeah, it's because he spent most of his time trying to defend himself between three people, right? And so what are you expecting from him, okay? He's not a career politician. This is not his profession. His profession is in business and getting things done. Now, obviously, the debate is part of the game that must be played when you're running for the president of the United States. So we're not looking for any sympathy or for people to feel sorry for him. We're just pointing out the truth of what happened last night. And that's why he went and spoke with Sean Hannity on this exact point. Watch.
There were a lot of things said that weren't true about you tonight, that you would support a national abortion ban.
Yeah.
You've never said that. That you support Project 25.
Correct.
You never read it? I don't even know what it is either.
I don't want to read it.
Okay, number two, that she said in 2000, I took back my position on banning fracking.
Yep.
No, CNN fact-checked that and said no. The mandatory gun buyback at the end of the debate, she lied about that too.
That's right. That's right.
And
She wants to confiscate.
confiscate.
I called her out on everything that you said. I think I got everything out. Now, with all of that being said, I was amazed because I really thought they'd be fair. I have to say, CNN a few weeks ago was sort of fair against Biden. Yeah. But this one was stacked. I figured it would be after watching 100% positive coverage of her. And she's done a terrible job as vice president. And look, she's the worst vice president we've ever had. She was the border czar, the worst border ever in the history of the world, not just in our country. And he's the worst president we've ever had.
So
Sean, they're destroying our country.
I'm very aware.
Yeah, I think we all are aware. And I think that's why he was passionately angry at not only the questions, but the arrogance of her and her failure to articulate any type of positive vision for this country. And when you go through what Donald Trump has gone through, which I don't think I know anyone who can truly understand what it's like to be so persecuted, probably the most persecuted politician in history. And I don't even think it's close. And then to survive a near assassination attempt and then to go on ABC, I think that says a lot about his character, his resilience. And that's what we need in the White House, not a president who sleeps during the day and the only time you can find him is on the beach somewhere. So I think that this speaks volumes to independents because she didn't do anything to win them over.
Yeah, Mr. President, we kind of expected it because when you look at Media Research Center, they said 100% of the stories covered on ABC about Kamala, 100% of the time was positive. 93% of the time when they covered you, it was negative. I mean, what's your reaction to why didn't the moderators correct her?
Because they're dishonest and because I think ABC took a big hit last night. I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that. Bloodbath was referring to the economy. Everybody loved the term because as soon as they heard the word, it's sort of a vicious word. I mean, it was incredible. I think he corrected me 6 times. And each time I was right. I believe each time I was right, didn't correct her at all, and she was saying these things. She was using, like, Charlottesville. She was using Charlottesville, and everybody, you take a look at Laura Ingraham, she did it incredibly. She had it totally debunked. She said that, in fact, it makes it angry. She gets angry when people hear about Charlottesville, when they use that.
Yeah, it's very infuriating, frustrating and angry because we want to hear about the issues, not about people's grievances with Trump or what was said in the past. And why don't they apply the same standard to Kamala Harris then? So if you're going to bring up everything that he said in the past, why are you not bringing up everything she said in the past? And that right there is where ABC made a huge mistake. They made CNN look like angels compared to what they did last night. And so I don't think this is going to bear well for them. And I think this could backfire on her campaign, because if that is the perception from the independent voters, these undecided voters, that, hey, this was 3-on-1. They did not fact check her. They did not follow up with her. She did not provide any type of details. Yeah, she showed up. Yeah, she was more confident than we've ever seen her. But how does that sit with the undecided voters? It doesn't for them. Let's remember something. This debate was held in Pennsylvania. Why is that? Because they know Pennsylvania is the most important state. Whoever wins that state, their chances of becoming the next president is like 94% or something like that, depending on who you ask, of course. And the biggest issue in Pennsylvania is around fracking. And of course, Trump and his campaign did not wait to put out an ad showing her flip-flopping on fracking. Watch this.
Harris will ban all fracking.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
That will immediately put tens of thousands of Pennsylvanians out of work and send utility bills skyrocketing.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Trump will protect clean energy fracking and protect the jobs it creates.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
So here are my final points about last night's debate in the context of the moderators and their inability to fact check Trump. Number one, we know this was going to happen, okay? I'm not surprised, actually. I'm not. I felt that it was more likely that they would do this, less likely they would be like CNN. And I think the reason why that was the case is because CNN got a lot of backlash on how fair they were, that they didn't fact check Trump live, they didn't follow up with Trump live, and they just let him say what he wanted to say, and then they let Biden say what he wanted to say, and that was it. And so they got a lot of backlash from that, and I think ABC was like, hey, you know what? We don't want to go down that road. Let's go ahead and tailor to our base, our audience, and let's fact check him live. So at a minimum, when we leave this debate, they can't say we didn't do a good job. And when I say they, we're talking about their audience, their base, not independent voters. Number two, I think this is a huge risk for Kamala Harris and her campaign, because if you watch the debate last night, you could leave and say, you know what, Kamala Harris won that debate, but you know why that's irrelevant and why it doesn't matter? It's what are the polls going to say a week from now? What are undecided voters saying about it? And what are they going to say about it 3 days from now? Will they remember this debate? I like to believe they won't, because think about what's happened over the past 60 days. What's happened since that June debate? So much has happened. We've literally forgot every single highlight, every single crucial moment, every single event where we were like, oh my God, this is it. It's been that crazy of a race. So will people remember this? I'm not too sure. But I tell you what they will remember are the clips that are going around social media showing her flip-flopping, the clips of where he's giving her a good one-liner and he's fighting back. Social media is quick, 60 seconds or less. So I don't think that is going to go well for her campaign. And my final point is her campaign is asking for a second debate. Why would you ask for a second debate if you clearly won? What would be the purpose of that, really? I truly believe the purpose of them doing that is because they know she didn't do anything to earn the undecided vote. She didn't do anything at all. What she did is the Democratic playbook over the last 8 years, and that is tear into Trump, make Trump look bad, make him the evil person, bring up all of the stuff in the past. And she didn't really talk about the future. And she didn't talk about what has happened over the last 3.5 years. She talked about him most of the time. And so that's why her campaign is begging for a second debate. But here's their problem. I can guarantee you Trump is not going to go for a second debate on ABC again. So they need to be careful for what they ask for, especially if that debate ends up on Fox News. And that's my mindset. What do you guys think about the moderators? What grade would you give the moderators? I think I have an idea on what that grade would be. What do you think about that there was no fact checking whatsoever around Kamala Harris? And what would you grade her performance? Put all those answers and more in the comment section below. Thank you for checking out the video today. Stay grateful, stay focused, and stay true. Peace.